everyone! So today I decided to make a video on being pregnant in Japan. By the time my husband and I I was going to say by the time my husband and I got pregnant, but I was the one that was pregnant, right? So by the time I got pregnant, we had been living in Japan for about 4 months, only 4 months. So I was practically brand new to the culture of Japan, the way they do things and everything, and my vocabulary was very, very poor when it comes to Japanese. We were so happy that it happened that we celebrated the same night that I found out. So to be sure, we bought 3 different pregnancy tests. They cost about between 500 to 800 yen. And being overly excited, we head over to the nearest OBGYN according to Google Maps. My very first visit, I was 4 weeks pregnant, and it was just a little speck. So amazing how they just grow in your belly, right? So it was just a little speck in my stomach. And my husband and I were hoping for twins, so we were kind of disappointed that there was only 1 speck, but we were still happy that there was a speck. I must admit, the consultation was a bit strange for me. The first thing that you see when you go in is a huge curtain separating you and the doctor. The doctor cannot see your face and you cannot see the doctor. And I entered the little room that they had there, the consultation room. I took off my shoes, put on some slippers, and then I took off my pants and underwear. And I laid back on like this chair where you elevate your legs. The regular OBGYN chair that they use to check your cervix and all of that. So the only difference is that, like I said, there's like a huge curtain separating you and the doctor. So you have no idea who's behind the curtain. Well, you hear voices and you hear giggles and you don't know who's behind it. Although I wasn't able to see the doctor, I was able to see the monitor right next to it, and I saw that there was like a little dot, and that dot indicated that there was a baby being formed. A baby had formed. It was so amazing. I was so happy. He printed like a little sheet and gave it to us, and I was able to show my husband. Unfortunately, he couldn't have been in the room with us because husbands are never allowed whenever they're doing vaginal inspection. The second thing that was a bit, uneasy for me is the obvious new Japanese vocabulary. It's all a part of being in a foreign country. You have to learn different vocabulary, so it's not a problem, but you still want to, when you find out such great news, you still want to be able to communicate to the doctors and to the nurses, and you still want to be able to understand them, The main thing that I was worried about is when you're in pain, you want to be able to express yourself other than itai. You want to be able to say exactly how you feel. Like, do you feel stings? Do you feel waves? Or things like that. Oh, and the doctor told me that I had to register my pregnancy. So I was like, what? When he said pregnancy registration, he meant that we had to go to City Hall and let them know that we're pregnant, and they would have to give us like different booklets and different things to assist us, along the way. In order to register my pregnancy, I would need a note from the doctor to confirm that I actually was pregnant. But the doctor was still skeptical to give me a note to confirm that I was pregnant because he said that at 4 weeks, it's still too soon, anything can happen. So he told me to come back in 2 weeks, so that would make me 6 weeks. And so at 6 weeks, I returned to the doctor, did an ultrasound on me to make sure, everything was fine. And he confirmed that yes, I am still pregnant. And he wrote like a little note in like a form that he gave to me to give to City Hall. And luckily for me, during that second visit, I was able to see my midwife, and she happened to speak English fluently. So that was perfect. So that made the whole experience even better, I think. And she was so kind. She gave me a cell phone number. After receiving the doctor's note, we headed over to City Hall, more specifically to the health center section that dealt only with pregnancy and childbirth. And after filling out a lot of forms, we received a mother and child handbook, which they call the Boshi Techo. So we received a mother and child health package, I guess. And in that package, we had some information on pregnancy yoga, birth notification, and prenatal checkup, as well as cooking classes, dental checkups, and different things related to being a mother. They also had coupons for stores, like clothing stores and restaurants, if you had this thing here. Can you see? So that is basically to let persons know that you're pregnant, and that can allow them to give you the seat in the train or bus. But most persons are generally too tired or just don't care, you know. But honestly, having been pregnant at one time, I can honestly say that backaches are real, okay? So even at, I'd say 3 months pregnant, my back was, I was out of shape really, but my back was crazy. I should have taken those yoga classes now that I think of it. And another thing is that when I was pregnant, I literally vomited every day. I'd say a month into being pregnant until I gave birth, I vomited every day. I couldn't keep anything in my stomach. So the first 6 months, I lost weight. Usually a lot of foreigners complain that doctors in Japan tell them that they have to lose weight because they're gaining too much weight. Of course, anybody would hate to be told by a doctor while you're pregnant that you need to lose weight. But I never had that experience because I had the opposite. I lost a lot of weight. In fact, the midwife asked me if everything was okay. I told her I vomited every day, and she advised that I take some drops sometimes, some intravenous drops, IV drops, to nourish my body because she was concerned for the health of the baby, the health of Layla. I drank a lot of fluids to help me a little bit with that. Some dakara. Dakara helped me a lot, seriously. Another concern that the midwife had was the fact that I would ride my bicycle every day. I rode my bicycle until I gave birth. I didn't care, but she was so concerned. She was like, oh no, you must not do that. I otherwise didn't do any other exercise. I didn't climb stairs. I didn't walk much, so I was thinking that I could at least ride my bicycle. Why not, right? I didn't see anything wrong with it, but she did, and she made a big deal out of it. And every time she would ask me, how did you come to the hospital today? And I'd be like, Boshi Techo is an awesome little book that can help you record your whole pregnancy, the development of your child from birth up until 6 years old. Within that book, you see all my STD tests and results, which they were all clean. You see all my blood results, all my levels, different blood levels. Every doctor's visit, the doctor would write different things about Layla in terms of the estimated amount of weeks she was and estimated length and size and weight that she was at the time. And every doctor's visit, they would actually give you like a little picture showing you at what stage your daughter is and what is she most similar to. Like at first she's like a pea and then she goes into an orange, that kind of thing. That was so cute. Back to the book. We got the English version and it had like Japanese subtitles at the bottom. It's slightly bigger than the Japanese version, so we had to buy, because normally in the bookstore you can find like a special Boshi Techo book cover, I guess. And because our English version of the Boshi Techo is actually slightly bigger, we had to find a custom one, like that was not specifically made for it. We still made it work, that kind of thing, and we stapled it together to make it fit. I think the cover is very important for that kind of book because it's going to last, well, you're going to need it until the child's at least 6 years old. And you kind of want to keep it for good memories anyway. So I think buying a book cover or laminating it or something is quite important. After my pregnancy was confirmed, I had to go every 2 weeks. And then once I hit the second trimester, I had to go every month. And when I hit the third trimester, I believe that I went every 2 weeks. And the last month, I went every week. Yeah, so I loved every single doctor's visit because I got to see my baby every single time. How cool is that? Oh, it's cute. And thanks to the health insurance and all the coupons that they gave us at City Hall when we registered birth, the doctor's visit was pretty much free, Like I think the highest that we had to pay was 800 yen because I got some IV drops. So the fact that they even do it for foreigners is amazing, right? Cuckoo. A typical doctor's visit is like this. So initially you're given a card, like a registration card that has your name and your hospital number. And every time you go to the hospital, you have to swipe the card. They just ask you 1 or 2 questions. And you enter it into like a little computer. They give you like a number. Whoever is with you on that day also gets that number, like a different colored card. And you put it around your neck. That particular number is the number that you'll see on the screens whenever it's your turn. And they have like 2 different screens for different rooms. One is like the room where they inspect your vagina, and the other one is the room where they do the ultrasound and the doctors speak to you one-on-one, that kind of thing. So anyway, once you register and you get the numbers, So you have to pee in a cup, you have to check your weight, and you have to take your blood pressure. You have to take off your shoes before going on the balance to weigh yourself. When you check your weight and when you take your blood pressure, there's like a sheet that prints out automatically, and you carry that sheet to the front desk. Along with the 2 little sheets, you give them the Boshi Techo, and you go and have a seat until you see your number pop up. So whenever you see a number pop up, you go to whichever room they direct you to. Usually a normal visit when there's no issues at all is just to have an ultrasound and for them to date your child, meaning for them to know how many weeks your child might be based on the weight. Layla was always overestimated because she is, I guess, bigger than a regular Japanese child. So she was always like a week ahead or a couple days ahead. But those things I think are never accurate anyway, so that's fine. While they're doing the ultrasound and everything, they allow you to have your husband in the room or whoever you have with you on that day. And our English-speaking midwife was not always there, which was fine. And she's a midwife. She really deals with like delivery, childbirth, as opposed to just those consultations. They had persons specifically for that. So she would just pop in from time to time when they had like serious issues to discuss, like when they had us sign some forms. Which brings me to the 3rd trimester. I would say all throughout my pregnancy, I saw nurses and midwives 80% of the time, and doctors maybe 20% of the time, maybe. So that was pretty different from what I was expecting, I guess. There was one house visit from a health center worker to make sure that all the living conditions were up to par for the arrival of a baby. And she asked me questions like, what do I plan on feeding the baby? I told her breast milk. She asked me if I would supplement with anything else. I said no, I don't think so. And she asked me if I need any advice on anything else. And she also said that she would come back 2 months after I gave birth to make sure everything is fine and the living conditions are okay.